It's a warm welcome here in our studio in Serekunda. This is Star TV News with me, Mayuneju Fadera. In the headlines tonight, scarcity of electricity creates havoc for many. Exploring rice fields undergoing construction by Gash. Arrival of ambulances from Turkey to the Gambia. On the international scene, scattered protest in Mali after crisis mediation falters. EU leaders agree on $860 billion joint debt economy relief package. UK vaccine prompts immune response. Well, those were the headlines, and now the news in details. The scarcity of electricity around the country nowadays has caused great havoc to many, especially the tailors, welders, and many others who use electricity to carry out work on a daily basis. Jacqueline Collin now reports.
Around Kotu and Manjai Highway, many people complained of the insufficient supply of electricity. Some of them even blamed it completely on the government, saying the government has failed people. Njogu Job, a welder, argued that the scarcity of electricity has a great impact on him because his work depends on electricity. And sometimes, his customers complain of how much time it takes him to complete a 2-day job in 4 days or probably a week. He stressed that it is with his work he provides his family with their basic needs. He urged the government and NAWEC to come together and settle the problem, because without electricity, he might end up penniless each day. And that is not good for him because he opens his shop to earn housekeeping money. Marambo, also a welder, stressed that he recently lost a contract after not being able to meet his deadline due to insufficient supply of electricity, which he blamed on NAWEC. He stressed that sometimes he and his workers starve at work because what is meant for their lunch is what they use to buy fuel to be able to meet the deadline of their client's work. A tailor also opened up and blamed neither the government nor NAWEC. He said that in every institution, problems like these always arise. He set an example with his sewing machine, which he said sometimes can stop functioning. He said that the same thing might have occurred at NAWEC. He claimed that the only problem he has is with the customers, as many will not understand the situation, but will instead have the blame on them. He urged NAWEC to help by resolving any issue that they have to favor the entire nation. Jacqueline Collin, reporting for Star TV News.
Last week, Thursday, Star TV visited rice fields in provincial Gambia, which are under construction by the Gambia Angola China Holding Construction Company Limited, GASH. However, this is a multi-million investment project aimed at creating jobs within its various jurisdictions in the hinterland. Modu Elbaji has more.
The accomplishment of these rice fields, which are currently under construction, will boost rice production in the country, and it will also avail employment opportunities to the people of Upper River region. Likewise, its neighboring villages. These projects are in Kasomar, Basedamfakunda, and Sutuma Samba. However, $100 million is said to be invested in these 3 rice fields, which are to be gain water from the River Gambia with the help of pumping machines via concrete water canals to the fields. The contractors are vigorously working to ensure that these landmark projects are complete on time. The GAT project manager, Lamin Fafanjai, explained how they won this project from the Ministry of Agriculture, adding that these projects are funded by the World Bank.
We place our tenders through our interest areas. We are dealing with agriculture, we're dealing with road construction, and name them. If we tender, we won the tender. Obviously, you have the qualified people, qualified technicians that can exploit their skill and knowledge. We're going to place a pipe right inside the sea, connected to the generator through a suction well. That's where the machine is going to pump out water to the main canal, to the secondary canals. The ABCD had a sponsor from the World Bank, and certain things are disclosed. This I cannot go.
In visiting this site, the CEO of GACH, Abubakar Jawara, was accompanied by a high-powered delegation which comprised of National Assembly members, business tycoons, and relatives.
We started this last year. It's about 90 hectares. And then we get this project from ABCD, one of agriculture department. That one who sponsored this project. So we tender it. and then we win the tender. So we almost done 90%, 95% of the work is already done.
Approximately over 90% of Gambians heavily depend on rice for consumption. This propelled the government to invest a good chunk of its revenue in rice importation, but the initiation of this rice project in URR are expected to drastically mitigate the rate of rice importation in the country. Reporting on behalf of Modu Xibaaryi for Star TV News, I am Omar Diouf.
Ambulances and medical items on Monday arrived at the Banjul International Airport from Turkey through the effort of the Health Ministry amid COVID-19. The items are to help combat the spread of the virus in the country. Well, Maria Madam files in this report.
Speaking at the ceremony, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmadullah Samate, said that the items are ready for use for the provision of healthcare delivery services in the Gambia. He also said that the provision of better healthcare service is possible because of the support of the President.
To help us put forward our proposal for the next funding cycle of the World Bank support to the Gambia for the health sector. By the way, that had been increased because of the exemplary leadership of His Excellency and the leadership at the Ministry of Health. The World Bank has even increased their support to the Ministry of Health, to the Gambia, to up to 40 million for these next few years. Now, he was here to help the country develop that. Then COVID-19 came into reality, and he actually got stranded here. But the time has been worthwhile spent. He raised this fund for us through his contacts, through his foresight, through his negotiations to get us the $10 million US dollar support from the World Bank. Together with the Minister of Finance, we thank him very much, Honorable Mamburinjai. They work on this funding support for us.
He assured that the medical items and the ambulances will be used by the citizens of this country. Even after the pandemic, the minister declared that the equipment will be distributed to the needed places. He disclosed that the total amount of money spent on the items was approximately $2 million. He also noted that the rest of the items will arrive later.
So still, the Gambia will receive 23 more in addition to this, because we want a system whereby after COVID-19, we have a very strong ambulance system in the country, whereby referral will be made easier for our people. Because you and I know that people have lost their lives in trying to get to the hospitals because there is a delay in getting them to the hospital because they didn't have access to ambulance services. And we want that to be a thing of the past in this country.
Honorable Usman Silla, a National Assembly member for Banjul North, also had this to say.
These supplies, medical equipment and material, have been brought to the attention of the National Assembly, particularly the Select Committee on Health. And we have been looking forward to witnessing the delivery of these items. I don't have much to say, but just that we believe that this is going to be a boost, not only to the response to COVID-19, but as we are supporting the process for the development of a robust, effective, responsive healthcare delivery system, these deliveries are going to help in that direction, that the Gambians deserve affordable healthcare, Gambians deserve accessible healthcare, Gambians deserve real-time attention in terms of healthcare. Gambians deserve affordable and quality healthcare. And we believe that with these ambulances, there are communities that are far off and would need medical attention. But for them to benefit from medical attention, real-time, lack of mobility has been.
He further said that he wants Gambians to benefit from this because it was taxpayers' monies that were used to procure them. He vowed that each of the regions will have one ambulance. Mumudu Tangara also urged the citizens to avoid social gathering, maintain the hand washing and use the masks because the pandemic is more relevant now than before. Maria Madem reporting for Star TV News.
Well, those were the local stories. We will be back with the international news after that short commercial break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulonding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
Here are 5 ways you can help combat stigma and discrimination as we fight against coronavirus COVID-19. 1. Educate your friends and family that COVID-19 is not specific to any race, nationality, or skin color. 2. Do not associate migrants with the virus. In many contexts, migrants are healthy and key players in nation building. 3. Remind others that discrimination may lead people to hide their symptoms rather than seek treatment. This puts everyone else at risk. 4. Be kind, considerate, and helpful to others in these difficult times. 5. If you know anyone experiencing symptoms, encourage them to dial 1025 for free.
Hello Gambia, your television experience is about to be transformed to the next level. Enjoy amazing features with the new DTT decoder by XCAF. Watch television in high definition and excellent sound quality. Watch Gambian channels such as GRTS, QTV, Star TV, Paradise TV and MTA with one decoder, all for free. That's not all. For a monthly subscription of $510, you get 60 international channels from your favorite football leagues, news, African movies, telenovelas, cartoons and much more. Get the decoder for $2,040, which comes with free installation, 24/7 customer and technical support all year round, and 1 month free subscription for only $510 thereafter. Get the decoder at XCAF Gambia, located at Hendon Court Building, former Dream Park, Senegambia, or through approved dealers. For more info, call 446-1060 or 446-1061. The world is at your fingertips with the XCAF DTD decoder.
Welcome back after that short commercial break, and we now look at the news beyond our borders. Scattered protests in Mali after crisis mediation falters. International mediators are heading back to Mali later this week to try to find an end to the political crisis. The opposition has already rejected a proposal from regional body ECOWAS calling for a unity government. They are insisting Mali's President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta stepped down. Al Jazeera's Nicholas Haig reports.
They call it Operation Ghost Town. Opposition protesters from Mali's M5 movement have set up roadblocks in the capital Bamako and in the cities of Timbuktu and Gao. The protest movement is spreading.
We don't want to be gassed. We raise our hands high up so that they can see we are not looking for violence, that we are not a threat. Our motivation is to continue our movement of civil disobedience so that our demands are met.
Moments later, police fired tear gas in an attempt to disperse the crowd. Demonstrators want to see President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta resign and the newly elected National Assembly dissolved. They accuse Keïta of rigging the ballot, which was held earlier this year, in favor of his governing party candidates, many of whom are close allies or relatives of the president. To end the crisis, the regional bloc ECOWAS, led by former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, says newly appointed constitutional judges should rule over the contested election results. While the bloc calls for national unity, it says there is no reason for the president to resign.
It is urgent to set up a government of national unity on the basis of consensus, taking into account the recommendations of the Inclusive National Dialogue. The proposals are for 50% of government members to come from the ruling coalition, 30% of government officials will come from the opposition, and 20% will come from civil society.
ECOWAS says a monitoring mission will make sure that this is implemented before the end of July. But the M5 movement has rejected ECOWAS's recommendations. It wants a transitional government, saying President Keita is in breach of the constitution after commando units trained to fight armed groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIL affiliates were deployed and fired live rounds on unarmed protesters. Several were killed and many injured.
We have told ECOWAS that we will not want the Malian people to feel at the end of this whole process that ECOWAS has the sole objective of keeping a president in power against his people. ECOWAS must not be an instrument for protecting heads of state. It must be an instrument of the service of the interests of the people.
The protest movement continues to gain momentum. Those who support it say they've lost confidence in Mali's leadership, and President Keita is increasingly becoming isolated. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera.
EU leaders agreed on $860 billion joint debt economic relief package. European Union leaders reached a deal on a massive stimulus plan for their coronavirus-blighted economies at a pre-dawn meeting on Tuesday after a fractious summit that went through the night and into its fifth day. The deal will see the EU issue 750 billion euros of joint debt to help member states mitigate the economic downturn. Al Jazeera's Raura Bodin-Menley reports.
It was a test of endurance for EU leaders. 4 days of tough negotiations where tempers often frayed. Finally, on the fifth, a deal. $859 billion in non-repayment grants and loans to member countries worst affected by the coronavirus pandemic.
4 longues journées et nuits.
We spent 4 long days and nights of negotiation, more than 90 hours, but it was worth it. This agreement is a signal that Europe is able to act. After all, people often accused Europe of being too little too late, whereas here we're demonstrating that the opposite is the case.
Wearing masks, it was the leaders' first face-to-face meeting since government imposed lockdown restrictions in March. Lockdowns that also meant the biggest economic downturn since the Great Depression. German Chancellor Angela Merkel was among leaders from France, Spain and Italy who led the way in convincing the bloc to consider splitting the amount evenly into loans and grants.
We've laid the financial foundations for the EU for the next 7 years, and at the same time came up with a response to the biggest crisis in the history of the European Union with the Recovery Fund.
The self-proclaimed Frugal Four, Sweden, Denmark, Austria and the Netherlands, initially stood opposed to the deal. The group, led by Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, worried about debt levels, but in the end, they were also convinced.
These were, of course, difficult negotiations in very difficult times for all Europeans. A marathon which ended in success for all 27 member states, but especially for the people. This is a good deal, this is a strong deal, and most importantly, this is the right deal for Europe right now.
While the EU has been faced with rising unemployment, as industries, including airlines and car manufacturers, lay off workers. Inside these walls in Brussels, many are hailing this an historic deal and a big step forward in softening the economic blow delivered by the pandemic. Laura Burden-Manley, Al Jazeera.
UK vaccine prompts immune response in. There has been a breakthrough announced in the race to develop a COVID-19 vaccine. The Lancet Medical Journal. There has been a breakthrough announced in the race to develop a COVID-19 vaccine. The Lancet Medical Journal has published promising results from scientists at Oxford University who have been conducting early human testing on a vaccine. The scientists say their vaccine is safe for humans and trigger the critical immune response which could stop the virus in its tracks. While the findings are encouraging, larger trials still need to be done. Al Jazeera's Paul Brenham has more from Oxford, UK.
Phase 1 really couldn't have gone much better for the Oxford team. Early positive signs now confirmed in the published research.
So this is an important milestone on the path, but we're now moving rapidly forwards to try to evaluate whether the vaccine actually protects the population by conducting large-scale trials, and we have 10,000 people already vaccinated around the world.
We still need to see how the vaccine performs in older people who are more at risk of severe disease than the people we vaccinated in this study. So that's the subject of future work, and there'll be more publications to come.
The Oxford vaccine is adapted from a common cold virus found in chimpanzees. Spike glycoprotein, a genetic material from the COVID-19 virus, was added. The hope is the human body will develop immunity to the spike protein, stopping the virus from entering cells and preventing infection. Tests indicate the vaccine produces two reactions by producing a defensive antibody response as well as T cells which attack the infected cells. T-cell response peaked just 14 days after volunteers were injected. Antibody response peaked at 28 days. And side effects were minor, mainly just tiredness and headaches, treated with paracetamol.
I'm hopeful. I got my fingers crossed. But to say that I'm 100% confident that we'll get a vaccine this year or indeed next year is, alas, just an exaggeration. We're not there yet.
This is a hugely encouraging result for the team here in Oxford, but provoking an immune reaction is just the first stage in vaccine development. Phase 3 trials already underway in the UK, South Africa and Brazil are looking at issues such as optimal dosage and exactly how much protection vaccinated people have when exposed to the actual coronavirus. Ellie Cannon was injected with the Oxford vaccine as part of the Phase 3 trials. She's a family doctor herself and has lost friends and patients to the virus.
Rather than sitting in front of the TV and screaming at the mortality rates every day or screaming at politicians or getting annoyed on social media, I really felt very strongly that I wanted to do something. I just wanted to be a part of the answer. I don't think there's going to be one answer to COVID. I think there's going to be a few different answers.
9 in 10 vaccine projects end in failure, and there is no guarantee that the early promise of the Oxford trials will lead to an effective COVID jab. But it is a very positive step. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera, Oxford.
Well, Professor Adrian Hill is part of that research group at Oxford University, and he explains what will happen next.
The immune responses that the vaccine produces have been found to be pretty encouraging. We're seeing that both arms of the immune system are triggered into action, producing antibodies on the one hand and T cells, part of the cellular immune system, on the other, and at numbers that are pretty encouraging, about the level that you would see in somebody who's had a fairly severe, significant COVID infection. So these are really about as good as we could have hoped at this stage of the vaccine's journey. So we're at the stage now of looking for efficacy of the vaccine, and that has involved recruiting almost 10,000 people into a so-called Phase 3 trial. Those people are being recruited at 19 centres around the country in Britain, and we are following those to see who gets infected by COVID and who doesn't. Now, that will come to a conclusion as soon as we have enough cases in the trial. That hasn't happened yet. It will probably take a couple of months at least yet, but we will get an answer on whether or not there are more cases or less cases, ideally, of COVID in the vaccine group than in the controls. We can't judge how long efficacy lasts until we have some efficacy, so we don't know that yet. But we are confident that, as with nearly all vaccines, the immune responses last years, not months. And even though they may decline a bit over time, we don't expect that to be an initial problem. In other words, the vaccine should last for at least a year, we think, hopefully longer than that. So the main problem right now is to get a vaccine that we can deploy and use, even if it only did last for a year. That would still be very useful indeed. And what we've shown in this report today is that you can give the vaccine again and boost immunity with a further dose.
And before we end the news, a quick recap of our main headlines. The scarcity of electricity around the country nowadays has caused great havoc to many, especially those that deal with electricity on a daily basis, such as the tailors, weldermen, and many others. Last week, Thursday, Star TV visited rice fields in provincial Gambia, which are under construction by the Gambia-Angola China Holding Construction Company Limited, GASH. However, this is a multi-million investment project aimed at creating jobs within its various jurisdictions in the hinterland. Ambulances and medical items on Monday arrived at the Banjul International Airport from Turkey through the effort of the Health Ministry amid COVID-19. The items are to help combat the spread of the virus in the country. International mediators are heading back to Mali later this week to try to find an end to the political crisis. The opposition has already rejected a proposal from regional body ECOWAS calling for a unity government. They are insisting Mali's President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta stepped down. European Union leaders reached a deal on a massive stimulus plan for their coronavirus-blighted economies at the pre-dawn meeting on Tuesday after a ferocious summit that went through the night and into its 50th. The deal will see the EU issue 750 billion euros of joint debt to help member states mitigate the economic downturn. There has been a breakthrough announced in the race to develop a COVID-19 vaccine. The Lancet Medical Journal has published promising results from scientists at Oxford University who have been conducting early human testing on a vaccine. The scientists say their vaccine is safe for humans and triggered the critical immune response, which could stop the virus in its tracks. While the findings are encouraging, larger trials still need to be done. Well, that's all for this edition of the news. Do join us tomorrow for more news. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful night.